Looking for something to spice up your regular cooking routine? Why not get serious about the actual spices? Here with some professional spice advice is Lior Lev Serkar's chef, spice blender, and owner of La Boite, a biscuits and spice shop here in New York City. Lior, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing with the Frontier Co-op.
We like to talk about spices, generally speaking, and we find companies such as them who have such a commitment, to environment and sourcing and helping the farmers. We are all about that.
So the locally sourced food movement is also having an effect on the world of spices?
Absolutely. So I think the awareness of the consumer, knowing what's in a jar, and transparency pushes us as spice makers, blenders, etc., to go to the source and really tell the story of these farmers, and that it's actually 100% pure spice.
So people are getting specific about their cinnamon. Now they want to know, let's say, or what spice is this, for instance? Whatever it is, they want to know where it comes from.
They want to know where it comes from.
Yeah.
They want to know, because there's also a difference. It's not necessarily just the fact that it came from Guatemala, but if it came from there, it has a different smell and flavor.
Absolutely.
And we want to provide them that information so they can cook better, because at the end of the day, it's about cooking.
Absolutely. And so let's talk about that. For some people who may be a little novice with their spices, do you recommend getting inspiration from their own family history, let's say?
I think so, absolutely. And the beautiful thing that's happening in the last 10 years or so is that we're proud of our heritage. We used to hide our grandmother's cooking and recipe and be a bit ashamed of it. We are all about cooking our grandmother's recipe nowadays. And that brings us to look at these traditional recipes, and they involve spices for the most part.
They absolutely do.
Yeah, and they make everyday food just so much better.
Now, to get into sort of some specific advice about cooking with spices, when it comes to cold applications of spices, dips and salad dressings, do you have some advice on how to do that properly?
Absolutely. First of all, I think spices should be used all day long, so they're not reserved for lunch or dinner. They should start from breakfast, coffee, your water throughout the day, your snack. You want to have a drink before dinner, that's totally okay with me. In terms of how to use them, so if you're using a cold application, definitely try and stay with more ground spices, fine ground, because they'll dissolve much easier in the preparation. If you're to use whole components, you'd have a hard time getting the full effect.
Okay. Okay. And now how about roasting spices? How do you do that, and how would you use roasted spices?
So you can toast your own, or roast, depending on how you want to call it. You could use a pan, you could use an oven, which is a method that I prefer because it's more consistent and it's easier to do, because I like to do other things while I do the toasting. I can walk away. It really brings the good stuff in the spice. They're in a dormant stage from the moment they were picked in Kerala in India 6 months ago. They're asleep to some extent.
So that wakes them up.
That wakes them up a little bit. And if there's any chance that something is not necessarily the most clean element, the oven will make sure it's clean.
And which spices taste the best that way, roasted? Which do you recommend?
I love toasting coriander and cumin, and cardamom really brings up things that are already ground. There's really no need to toast them. There's even a risk that they will burn.
Okay, all right.
So whole elements are
very good to know. Now, so many people keep their spices in their cabinet forever. How long do they really last? That's not good, is it?
When that question comes up, it's already too long.
Yeah.
They're not a bottle of Bordeaux. They're not going to become any better. Don't look at them. Use them. And make a point of opening your kitchen cabinet. Take what's out there, and that might be the drive for your next course or your next dish, and you're going to celebrate the spice. It's an ingredient. It's not an afterthought.
You need to, and you need to keep using them and cleaning out that spice cabinet.
And cleaning the jars, and the good news, you'll rarely get sick from an old spice. That's also a bad news, because you're going to keep it for that.
Yeah, maybe that's why people do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Lior, thank you so much
Absolutely.
for this great cooking advice.